let's go on an improvement journey with me. So, in early 2024, I felt like my art was stagnating again, and I wasn't drawing as much because of it. The last time this happened, I simply just didn't draw for months on end. I think like 9 months total. But when I did, I was finishing a piece I had started before and fell back in love all over again. But I didn't want to go through that again. One, it killed my reach, not that I have much to begin with. But the main reason is I really do enjoy drawing. It's a great coping mechanism for me, and I find that I get frustrated when I go a long time without having anything to draw or being able to draw what I want. Anyway, this brings us to March. I'm cranky again about not drawing, and I want to make myself improve and push through this slump. So I'm gonna make this a mini-series of sorts because I want to make more content regarding my art anyways, I enjoy it, and I think it's going to take me some time to see noticeable improvements. Plus, I find that this is going to be a great way to hold me accountable considering I do have ADHD, and having the pressure of somebody else has saw this. Oh god, I have to keep this up. So, you guys are my accountability buddies, let's go. To start off my improvement, I decided I needed a plan. Looking at my most recent pieces, the first thing I noticed was that I still tend to do vibes for the background instead of properly rendering them out. Which is not a huge deal since I'm primarily a portrait style artist, but it would definitely help me out with different technical skills, including scale and perspective, because those are two things that I still struggle a lot with. Now here's the thing, in some pieces, vibe-based backgrounds work. Take this piece I did for my fiance and I of our Minecraft skins. It's foggy, dark, kinda supposed to be reminiscent of the Nether in Minecraft, so having those vague shapes that slowly fade in the background work. Like between these arches here, those shapes look vaguely like they're part of the landscape despite them being scribbles. But on other pieces of mine, they tend to feel like they fall flat because of the background being super plain or just flat. From there, I started looking deeper at my portrait work because my goal is a semi-realistic style. While I like my art, it feels like it's always missing something to me. One thing that I noticed right off the bat looking at some of these examples, like this nice little lady on this purple background here, she was a desktop I did. Or this stained glass piece I did for my friend as commission. I noticed that the eyebrows are very cartoony thickness compared to the rest of the piece. The rest of them have a very realistic type of shading and rendering to them, but the eyebrows they're just rough shaded blocks. You can't really make out the hairs in them, and when you can, it still has a very clay-like appearance to them, kind of like they're drawn on, or they're from The Sims 4. Which, them being drawn on is not a problem. Makeup's a thing, but I think I want something a bit more realistic with a lighter look to them. Moving down the face, let's look at the eyes. I'm overall actually pretty happy with how I do the eyes, though there are small things I'd improve. Like, making the lashes and waterline have a more fantasy soft look to them. I'm not going to put this in my little notes or list here, just because it's a small thing that I don't think I personally need to practice on to get the result I want. On to the nose. These things, I'm going to be honest, they're the devil. Now, shapes and width when sketching, I don't have an issue with. I can do different diverse shapes and sizes just fine. I don't post a lot of the diversity just because I tend to only post finished pieces. That aside, my main issue is the shading. Especially the nostrils. I can never seem to find a way to make them look right in my style. They always just have a somewhat off feel to them, and I think part of this is just because I have a little bit of a hesitance around drawing sharp edges still. Liv, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I'm working on it. Please yell at me. Anyway, further down we have the lips. I'm not necessarily unhappy with them, but I'm not pleased with them either. I feel like I struggle to make them look soft and pillowy like real lips without making them look like Sims custom content lip gloss. Because I do want them to have that juicy look to them occasionally, but I don't want them to look like somebody just slathered layers of glass on them. And again, glossy lips are fine, but I think I want a more soft, natural, realistic look to them because I do tend to draw a lot of just natural women with limited makeup, or when I do makeup, it's obviously they're getting very bold makeup, so it's noticeable. Anyways, but it's similar to the eyebrow issue for me. It doesn't quite fit my style. It looks like it came from The Sims, which, given how many hours I have put in The Sims 4, I am not surprised. I'm constantly downloading CC. I used to make Sims custom content, so it's not surprising that this has made its way into my art slowly over time. But we're gonna fix that. Now, look at my vampire ladies here with the blood. I'm content with those. The lips, the lighting was slightly different than my normal lighting, though I do still tend to do dramatic lighting. And the angles were different, so I didn't need as much depth with the lip shading because it was a side view. But I'm happy with how the colors and the pillowiness of the lips turned out. And then, on to anatomy in general. Overall, I'm actually happy with the anatomy I have, though I do tend to rely pretty heavily on the Clip Studio models to get poses down. Which on its own isn't a problem, but I find that the models aren't detailed enough in terms of like how they're actually, the 3D model detailing. for me to use as a proper reference for certain things. One thing in particular I need to work on outside of like using models as reference is hands. I can draw them well enough, I know how the pieces work, I know how the bones work, that's not a problem. It's the shading of them that I can't quite get figured out. Take a look at my Dark Urge piece, for example. This was my Dark Urge from Baldur's Gate. That is the only piece of fan art I think I've ever drawn in my life. The vibes were there, the hand shape is there, and then again with the vampire ladies, the hand shape is there. It's just not rendered right at all. So now we have our list. Backgrounds, more realistic eyebrows, rendering noses, nostrils specifically, more realistic, less glossy lips, and hand rendering. Looking at my list, most of it is rendering based, however, I decided to reach out to a few artist friends as well as local artists I don't get to talk to as much to do some critique. One of my best friends pointed out that I really just don't ever draw men, or facial expressions for that matter, which is a fair point. There's not a whole lot of diversity in my art, and it's not out of any malice or lack of education, it's more just my ADHD being like, ah yes, women pretty. Actually, that's probably also me being a little gay, but that's not the point here. But in general, I also tend to avoid drawing clothes as well, so it's a whole lot of nude women in my repertoire that I have online. Which again, nothing wrong with it. I have a niche, that's fine. But my goal here is diversity. And I've noticed that when I do draw clothing, it is super simple. It tends to be like t-shirts and plain non-textured pants, ew. Or just drapey clothing inspired by Greek and Roman toga looks, kind of like you'd see on a statue of Aphrodite. Which again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're worried about your own art, there's nothing wrong with having a set style and theme for all your art. You gotta build your niche and your brand somehow. But in my case, I really want to improve and diversify my art so I can do a little more with it. So that adds 3 more things to our list straight away. More men, more facial expressions, and clothing. Right now, I think this is a really solid list for me to work with, so we're gonna dig into item number 1 today, backgrounds. I tend to go for a really fantasy, whimsical, magical style with my art. I don't really have a correct phrase for it, but I really like the magical vibes. Like, this character could have been taken straight out of D&D. I'm so sorry, my cats are having the zoomies, but it's fine. But I'm super fond of playing with lighting in my pieces. This piece, for example, of this fallen angel, I actually enjoyed, and the background isn't too terrible, but there are some areas I'd like to improve on with it. So I'm gonna spend this weekend drawing some backgrounds and working on the less is more, but making it work. When I say less is more, I mean the concept that you don't have to draw pixel-perfect backgrounds that are super detailed, especially if you already have a person or an item or something that's your primary focal point in your picture. Looking back at my Fallen Angel piece that I just mentioned, really my only complaints with this were that the columns were not quite detailed enough because I wanted those to be a secondary focal point after the angel. And the flowers just have no depth. I won't even lie to you guys, I scribbled circles for those. I took a chalk brush and just scribbled circles back and forth, like little half circles around each other. And it's not that I don't know how to draw flowers, you guys. I exclusively drew flowers, skulls, and fruit for like 6 months when I was obsessed with colored pencil realism and tattoo art. So when I was writing the script for this video, I decided I wanted to draw some sort of abandoned structure with columns that's been overgrown by nature, because I still want to fit within my niche right now for the background portion, but I want to improve on it.